Archimedes was alleged to have said, give me a place to stand and I'll move the earth. Now, of course, he was talking about levers, mathematics or physics. In other words, if he has a lever long enough and a solid place to wedge the lever, he can lift any weight with minimal force or next to no force. Well, he was talking about physics, mathematics, as I say, but I think that proposition, that point of view, actually bears up in a number of other ways as well. In the field, say, of philosophy, one point of view that's always fascinated me is that of infinite regress. You take any point of view, it has to be based upon some place to stand. In order to say anything, believe anything, there has to be a point of reference. There has to be a certain underlying assumption in that. This applies to any number of points of view. For example, if you want to describe something, any mundane little thing, like an apple, let's say. Okay, well, you think that that's an easy thing to describe. Is it? Why don't we describe an apple from the point of view of what it can be used for? Any number of things. How about we classify it in terms of its effect on certain animals if they ingest it? How about if we describe it physically, i.e., what are the chemical components that make up an apple, or genetically, what's the genetic code of an apple? Or biologically, how do all the cells and essential components of an apple combine to form an apple? And you can also look at it in many other ways. It's made up of atoms. It has gravity. In other words, physically, it has certain properties. Okay, how about everything that has been said about apples in human experience? Good luck on that one. That's pretty much impossible. So in other words, something as simple as an apple is ultimately just a series of value judgments on our part. In our own minds, we give it appleness. Same thing goes, say, for space, time. We think that I routinely use inches. I build furniture as some not very good furniture as something of a hobby, and I'm always using a tape measure or a T-square or something like that. Now I use inches, degrees all the time. Now I assume that they work. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't know what an inch really is. An inch is an arbitrary thing that we've cooked up to measure space, which even in itself is an arbitrary idea, because space, as far as we know it, goes infinitely off into the distance. You step outside at night, you look up. Well, as far as we know, that never stops. Okay, so what does that really do to the idea of space? Space is infinite. At least space is infinite if it is the type of space that we can measure in inches. It's infinite. Which actually brings us back to the point that we've created arbitrarily a piece of infinity, which by definition cannot have a piece of infinity, because if you have a certain number of pieces, you get an infinity, which is infinite. But anyway, time as well. Time goes back to the remotest of pasts, and it goes into the remotest of futures. Past and future are two separate things which are separated by something called the present, which we don't know what is, as I've mentioned in a previous video. So again, we've got infinite regress there. We have to have certain points of view. If I show up late for work, I get disciplined. I'm not saying that time doesn't exist for all practical purposes, but in an absolute sense, can we really say that time exists, space exists? We can use these things to actually create stuff and operate in this world, but as ideas in and of themselves, or as unarguables, no, they don't exist. Or I have yet to hear a good argument stating conclusively that they do exist. It's just it's a philosophy that in many ways, or a point of view in many ways, that kind of goes nowhere. But I would say the very fact that it does go nowhere is something that should give us pause. Because it has the potential, or at least if you use it in a certain way, to smash pretty much any point of view on anything into oblivion. Now, what use is that? Well, I would say that it's the closest thing that we can do with our limited understanding to get a God's eye view of the universe. Now, I'm not saying God's eye view, in other words, a theistic point of view. What I'm saying is seeing the completeness of the entire universe, conceptual or real or potential or otherwise. we can see everything as more or less one big thing, or one big nothing, or just everything. It goes off all known maps. And like I say, it's not actually useful, but I think that it's a very interesting point of view in terms of unsnarling philosophical disagreements or whatever, because what you end up doing is you end up proving that pretty much everybody is wrong in one way or another. But you're also proving in a sense that there really isn't such a thing as being wrong. It's more of a cautionary theory as far as I'm concerned, or a cautionary point of view. It doesn't even seem to be a theory. It seems to be just a point of view, infinite regress. I don't... I've never heard it effectively refuted other than it's not practical. But it's one of my favorites, and I find it absolutely intoxicating. Thank you.